This episode of the ZuLoo Pōōdcast is sponsored by ZuLoo Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at ZuLoo.com.
So the first step in the treatment process is our Headworks. So I'm going to zoom in here, and this building right here is our Headworks building. Okay. The Headworks is where we screen the water and remove the grit.
Okay.
So
the nice way of saying all of the inappropriate crap,
yes.
in addition to the crap that people put down the toilet, right?
Welcome to the ZuLoo Pōōdcast, where we talk all things poop, toilets, and sanitation. Through insightful news, impact stories, and quirky humor, we aim to discuss and highlight the critical role toilets play in whisking poop out of our lives, the impact toilets have, or lack thereof, in the health and wellness of humanity, and what ZuLoo is doing to help solve the current global sanitation crisis.
Hello, ZuLoo friends, sanitation friends. Welcome to the Poodcast. We're so excited. We have a very special episode for you today and an educational one as well. I was so delighted this morning when I woke up and it was blue skies for our tour today. So we are here at the Logan Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility in Logan, Utah. And we're excited to learn about this facility and some of the awards that they've recently won. And we're here today with Madeline Tennant, and she is the Water Waste Treatment Manager. Like, say hello, Madeline.
Hi, I'm Madeline. Like Suzanne said, I'm the Wastewater Treatment Manager for Logan City. I've been working here for about 5 years now. 3 of those years were as an intern while the plant was being built. And I've been the manager for the last 2 years. And our facility is brand new. We've just been treating water for about a little over a year now, since January of 2022. Okay. So
great. Yeah, and that's exciting. When I came in, introduced myself to you initially, you told me how you were a student at Utah State. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that they didn't have anybody qualified for this position, right? They were kind of like, they knew that this was going to happen and this improvement was going to happen, but they were like, we don't have anybody that's qualified. And so you kind of just stepped up to the plate, right?
Yeah, it just kind of worked out good. So I was able to get certified as a level 4 wastewater treatment plant operator.
So is that like the highest level? Is that like the PhD of like... Okay.
Yeah, so prior to the plant, we had sewer lagoons. And those are what's considered a level 2 treatment system. And our new plant is a level 4. So
wow. So we're moving up here in the world. We're going up from level 2 to level 4. Well, I'm so excited because this is all new to me. So, and I think we have viewers that are both know a lot about sanitation, a lot that don't. So I'm excited just to learn about the lagoons. And yeah, this will be great. So we're going to go ahead and just take off and follow her, and we'll probably be outside a little bit too. So, all right. So, Madeline's going to go ahead and give us an overview of how this system works. And she actually just shared with us that in the past year, you've done about 50 tours. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We had a lot of school groups and also just some tours from the general public. And that was really exciting to have people come see this.
So how does that usually go over? Like, how are you surprised at like how people respond?
Yeah, actually, it's been really exciting. I've really enjoyed. People have been excited and really interested in it, which is fun to see. I think it is kind of surprising if you don't know about wastewater treatment, what happens to it.
I don't think there was ever anyone on the planet that wasn't grateful for a system that takes care of this part of our daily lives, which is not so pleasant. Okay, great. So let's go ahead.
Yeah, so this picture right here is just an overview picture of the treatment plant, some drone footage. So So even though we're called the Logan Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant, we actually don't just take wastewater for the city of Logan. We take water from 7 cities in total, all the way from Smithfield to Nibley. Other than Millville, they're on septic systems. So in total, it's about 75% of Cache Valley, their wastewater comes here to us.
So do you happen to know approximately how many people that is?
I want to say our most recent estimate was, I want to say 120,000 people.
Wow.
That's
a lot of waste.
So the plant is designed, our new facility is designed to handle 18 million gallons of wastewater every single day.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
That is 18 million. Wow.
So I always like to kind of start off and tell people why we had to build the new plant and what we did before to treat our wastewater.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to Google Maps here. And they haven't updated their images yet, but if you look at this is where the new plant would be right here.
Oh, okay.
And if you look in the background, you can see these big ponds. And these are sewer lagoons. They were built by Logan City in 1968, 66, 68. I always say 68.
Okay.
And so prior to the plant, these ponds are what we were using to treat the water. So the water would come into the ponds. There's 2 treatment trains here. There's 7 ponds in total. And the water would get split between kind of 2 different paths. Overall, the water would spend 90 days making its way through those 7 ponds. And over the course of that time, you'd get a lot of settling of the nasty stuff out of the water. And also, there's a lot of bacteria in wastewater that naturally grows, and it likes to munch on the human waste. That's its food. So it eats some of the nasties out of the water. And then at the end here, this was an addition that happened a couple years later, but there was this chlorine basin. And so just before the water leaves the lagoons, it goes in there. We inject chlorine gas. It disinfects, kills off any bacteria pathogens. Mainly E. coli is what we want to target before the water goes into the environment.
Excellent.
So from here, our water eventually from the new plant and from the lagoons goes to Cutler Reservoir, which is just out to the west of us. So all of our water quality regulations and limits are based off of Cutler Reservoir and the beneficial uses of that water. And those limits are given to us by the state of Utah. We have a permit with them. So they determine what those limits are for us.
And it's handy because it's not that far. Cutler is like right there. Is this a typical system that they use throughout the country to put the wastewater that's been treated back into a natural source?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's mainly usually the purpose of wastewater treatment plants is to take what people flush down the toilet, put down their drains.
All the crazy, insane things that they shouldn't be putting down.
And not just from houses, but from businesses and large industries as well. They have to have somewhere to put their wastewater and have it treated before, so we can put it back into the environment. Yeah. So the reason we had to build the new plant, in 2010, the state of Utah finished conducting what's called a TMDL study on Cutler, and that stands for Total Maximum Daily Load. And so what they do is they look at Cutler and they look at all the different contaminants in the water, and they basically determine how much of those contaminants the water body, in this case Cutler Reservoir, can handle. And based off of those limits, they put that back on us. From that,
they were like, whoa, this is too much going on here. This is getting overload. Well, and that happens because the population obviously is growing here. So there's more people, more houses, more businesses, right? So that's adding to all of it.
Yes. And also just water quality standards are usually always updating because we're always learning more about different chemicals and things. So in this case specifically, they determined that Cutler was impaired due to phosphorus. Phosphorus is a nutrient. There's a reason it's called a nutrient, because all living things, including us, need nutrients to live and grow. However, if you have too many nutrients in the environment, such as phosphorus or nitrogen is another big one, that can cause things like algal blooms, which can lead to harmful cyanotoxins. And so pretty much you'll notice maybe Utah Lake, you've heard about that in the news. Pretty much all.
So it's adding to the general pollution of the air quality, or just in
the water.
Okay.
So if you went and swam in that water, say your dog or something went and swam where there's lots of algae and those potential toxins, that could be detrimental, really harmful to people.
To people and to animals.
Yes.
And probably like all living species that are affected by this, the ecosystem of the water. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So these nutrients in our water can come from various things. Fertilizers have a lot of nutrients in them, and that can get in the water. That can come from things like detergents, and other types of waste in our water can carry those things. So because of that study, the state told us, okay, you guys are going to have to update your treatment system to be able to remove these nutrients to protect color.
Okay.
And the lagoons don't really have the ability to do that well. They do it a little bit, but not very well. The main way that we remove nutrients from the water is we utilize those bacteria that I mentioned before. Okay. So there's specific types of bacteria in wastewater that if we encourage them to grow, they will consume those nutrients out of the water. But they have to have pretty specific environments. And because our lagoons are so big, they're 460 acres, which just to give you an idea on this, here's Utah State University, and here's the lagoons. So you can see the lagoons you can fit
the whole university
in the lagoons. So they're really big.
Is that a larger than common lagoon, or is that average size? Or
yeah, most smaller systems will use lagoons. Typically, they're for small systems, but our lagoons were some of the largest in the United States for a long time. So they probably still are.
Okay.
So the first step in the treatment process is our Headworks. So I'm going to zoom in here, and this building right here is our Headworks building. Okay. The Headworks is where we screen the water and remove the grit.
Okay.
So
the nice way of saying all of the inappropriate crap, in addition to the crap that people put down the toilet, right? Yeah. So what is one of the most insane things that you've known that's come through?
We've had things like one time. This wasn't with our new plant, but the old one, we had a giant construction barrel that came down. Wow. We've had things like balloons with drugs, balloons with money in them, sheets, things like that.
Wow.
A lot of times people think, it's in the sewer, out of sight, out of mind, but it's going to get...
Right. Do you get a lot of goldfish?
Let me show you a picture, actually.
Okay. Oh.
So... this is so with the old treatment system, we had different types of screening. These are called bar racks. And as you can see, the gaps are a lot bigger than 6 millimeters. There's a lot of stuff that can make its way through here. So somebody had flushed their pets down the drain, probably thinking maybe they're
going to go survive and have like a great life. And
they did. So these are actually living in our lagoons right now, and they're about this big.
So they did survive, and they're like, wow,
they're thriving.
Who knew? Yeah, they probably love it.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm glad that they're alive and they're like enjoying the whole ecosystem.
So unfortunately, with the new plant and our new screening, the fish aren't going to make their way down here anymore. Okay. So they'll get screened out. But these guys are kind of our mascots there. So. So after screening, we have grit removal at our Headworks. So this is called a vortex grit basin. And the gentleman who invented this I've been told that he came up with this idea because he was stirring his coffee in the morning, and he noticed as he stirred that it created a vortex and the grounds settled towards the center. So that's basically what this is. It's just a circular basin with a mixer. And then it settles to the center, and there's a pump that pumps that grit out and around, and it goes into a bin. And this is also material that has to be thrown away. Okay. So grit is going to be things like sand, gravel, seeds, fingernail clippings, toenail clippings, stuff like that. So this is also going to get thrown away in the landfill. Yes. So after screening and the grit removal, we have big pumps in our Headworks building that pump the water around in an underground pipe, and it comes around the lagoons, and it goes into this splitter box here. Okay. And this box splits that flow evenly between these 3 big basins that you see here. Okay. And these basins are called bioreactors, and they're the heart of our treatment plant. This is where we're growing those bacteria that are going to clean our water.
Because I was thinking in my head, it was all different chemicals and everything that you do to treat, chlorine and then this process. But I learned that it's more this natural process that right?
Yes. Biological treatment or utilizing bacteria is usually the main form of wastewater treatment. There's usually chemicals involved, but they're kind of, we try to limit those as much as possible. So our bioreactors, each one of them is divided into 3 different zones. So the first zone is at the front here. It's kind of this smaller zone. It's called an anaerobic zone. Anaerobic means no oxygen. We want an oxygen-free environment. The second zone, which is kind of this area here, is called the anoxic zone. Anoxic means I don't have any free dissolved oxygen, but I am going to have compounds with an oxygen component, such as nitrates and nitrites. So NO2 and O3. So they have an oxygen component to them. The third and final zone, which is kind of this racetrack looking area here, is called the aerobic zone, and it's an oxygen-rich environment.
How long does this process take approximately?
The water in the plant spends 9 hours. So we went from 90 days to the lagoons to 9 hours.
Wow. That's a massive improvement.
The solids, as we call them, or the bacteria, we try to keep them in the plant for 15 to 20 days. And we do that through what's called return activated sludge. And I'll talk about how that works in a second.
The sludge has got to go through a lot more, thankfully.
And in this building is where we have our disinfection for that water. So with the lagoons, we used chlorine gas to disinfect the water. With the new plant, we use UV light to disinfect the water.
Light? Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I would have never thought of that.
And we have a bunch of farmers out here to the west of us, and they actually take our treated water and they put it on their fields.
Oh, okay.
That's
great. Yeah. So during that time period, they can use that. Does this also get channeled into the cities that they can use to water their lawn, or it's different?
Yeah. So there's different categories of treated water. Ours is considered for secondary reuse. Secondary reuse is, well, first of all, you can't drink it. It's not considered safe for drinking. But also it's not supposed to come in direct contact with humans. So you couldn't even take our water and put it on like a cornfield, for example, something that would be directly consumed. So the farmers are mainly using this for their alfalfa fields to grow stuff for their animals. So when it's not irrigation season, our water continues on down that channel, and eventually it goes into these man-made wetlands. Our water flows through those wetlands, and then it goes into Swift Slough, which drains right into Cutler. So
then it goes back that direction. Wow. It's amazing, pretty complex of what goes on. And how much did this facility cost to build?
Including purchasing of the land, it was about $150 million. And that's a lot of money. But we also finished construction right before things got really crazy.
Oh, with the COVID prices of things. So that was a major blessing. But so is that a pretty average price for a facility in the US?
Well, now it's really cheap. If we were to build this facility now, even just a couple of years later, it could cost us at least double, if not more. So everything.
We lucked out. We got a bargain here. But it's still a big chunk of change. Yeah.
It is. Yep.
All right.
And we'll walk around here in a minute and I'll actually show you some cool stuff.
Awesome. Okay. Sounds great. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's head on out. Approximately how many employees work at this? And do you have like a night shift? Is this like a 24-hour a day process or?
Yeah, so we have 9 employees down here, including myself, 6 full-time operators.
Okay.
And then we have a lab guy, myself, and we have a part-time secretary. And so our operators, they're here during the day.
Okay.
During the week. Sundays we're not here. But in the evenings and on Sundays when we're not here, somebody's always on call. So we have this thing called a SCADA system, and it monitors all of our equipment, tells us what's running. If anything has a problem, it will send us an alarm on our phone.
So like 2 a.m., you're going to get a beep, beep, beep. Okay.
Yeah. So we always have somebody on call to respond if anything goes wrong.
Wow. I would assume that you had more employees, but you have 9. That's okay. Amazing. Very efficient.
We're trying, yeah. I'd like to point out, sorry, I guess I should mention, so this tank right here is a holding tank. So when we waste sludge for the day, this is a place to store it before we can dewater it, before we can squeeze the water.
Okay.
So this tank is open to the air. It has what are called jet mixing pumps that pull air and inject it into the solids. And that just helps control the odor. Anaerobic areas are places where you don't have oxygen in water. That's where you get the really stinky stuff like degradation, fermentation, methane, hydrogen sulfide.
I was actually just going to say, like, I don't smell a thing. Like it doesn't, I would not even know that we were here. Yeah.
Well, I hope people don't think I'm crazy, but the area on our bioreactors that are aerobic, where the oxygen is mixing, when you have the right day and the right conditions, it's actually one of my favorite smells. It smells like clean dirt or laundry soap, and it's actually kind of pleasant.
Wow.
So I enjoy it. But
Ew. We might have to come back. You might have to give me a call. Suzanne, it's one of those days. Come on over.
If you don't believe me, come for a tour on a nice day. And I'll show you.
Okay. That's fascinating. That's great. So the purple fire hydrant.
Yeah, so we have our lavender fire hydrants, and it's not.
Sorry, yes, lavender.
Yeah, it's not just because we're on trend with the favorite color this year, but purple is an industry standard for non-potable water. So we use some of our treated water, and we use it in our sprinkler systems, in our fire hydrants, in our hose bibs. Around the plant. And so because our water's not drinkable, all that piping, hydrants, or sprinkler heads are all purple.
The lavender purple color to be like, okay, don't drink me. No.
So we're standing on bioreactor number 1 right now. This right here is that anoxic zone. Okay. And the anaerobic zone is the one with the smaller mixers right there. Okay. And then this over here is the aerobic zone. So this big blue motor that you see, this is an aerator. And so it's a 200 horsepower motor that's connected to an 8-foot diameter steel paddle. And that paddle rotates around and aerates the water. So,
great. And Darren, did you get a good view of this water here? Yeah. And again, I don't smell a thing. Like it's mind blowing. It doesn't look very great, but it doesn't smell.
Yeah, so these tanks that you see here, this is the aerobic section of the bioreactors, or the aerated, the oxygen-rich environment. This is the place that smells good on a good day. It will smell like laundry soap. In between, you'll notice that there's this deck here, and there's some davit cranes. So even though we have the aerators, which are the big blue motors, we have mixers throughout this tank to help keep everything suspended, because we want it to settle out in the clarifiers, not in these tanks. So we want to keep everything suspended and mixed. So we have mixers that help.
Okay, excellent.
Yes. So these are the secondary clarifiers. So this is the settling basin where we're going to separate the solids from the water. This is where the mixed liquor from the bioreactors comes.
So everything, all the sludge is like seeping down to the bottom. That's why we can't smell it, thankfully.
Yeah, so the sludge is settled to the bottom, and then the water on top is going to overflow that weir that I pointed out before into a trough, and then it's going to go into the UV building where we just were for disinfection. We actually added, you'll notice we have these white covers around the outside edge. We added those trough covers just because we were getting a lot of algae. You really don't have to have very many nutrients, even though we remove all of it, even just a little bit you can get algae growing. So we just put those on to protect from the sun so we don't get algae.
So how is this affected, or maybe it's not, if it rains a lot or snows? Like, because these are open, and I mean, we've had so much snow. So how does this affect this?
Yeah, so I mentioned these are 15 feet deep. When your plant is operating and healthy, you really shouldn't have more sludge blanket, or the depth of your sludge in the bottom shouldn't be much deeper than 3 to 4 feet. So when it rains and stuff, that's not going to
turbulate. Not enough that it's going to turbulate it. Okay.
I mean, anything is possible. If you had something really bad, it could, I guess, disturb it enough. But typically, you're going to be fine in a storm.
Okay, so we got some really different. Do these colors mean different things in here? The orange and the blue and all that?
So we have all the blue that you see. Those are pumps, various types of pumps. You'll notice that we have this really big round piping that's pumping the return sludge. So a lot of these smaller pumps are part of the wasting process and also the biomag recovery. But these really big pumps on this side of the wall, these are the return activated sludge pumps. So you can kind of see size-wise how much we return versus how much we waste each day. It's a lot more that stays in the system. We're just
awesome. Okay. Yeah, so that's a good thing to point out. This is what is actually wasted, those smaller ones, and then this is what you keep, right, and recycle. Awesome. Okay.
So that air system in that corner over there, our big blue silo that holds the magnetite powder. So we use compressed air to add that powder to replace any magnetite we don't recover from the system. And so this is just an air tank. And so we use that compressed air to add the powder into the water.
Okay. So it's like a big air gun, but vertical to push it through. Awesome. Okay.
This is the UV building where we disinfect the water before it leaves the plant.
Awesome. So this is where it's treated by the ultraviolet light, right? Yeah. Wow. Cool. Okay, Madeline. So can you tell us what we're looking at here?
Yeah, so these are our UV channels. So we have 2 of them, and our UV banks sit down in these channels, and the water passes through to get disinfected.
So how long is the water in this area then being treated?
It kind of depends on how much flow we have coming through the plant, but it really doesn't stay very long in these channels. It goes through.
Kind of just flows through, and it's that powerful that it just cleans it.
Yes.
Wow. All right, so here's the treated water, right, Madeline?
Yes. Yeah, this is our water. This is the final product. So you can kind of compare what this looks like to what we saw in the bioreactors. So
yeah, it looks a lot better. A lot. That's a big upgrade.
Yeah. Like I said, this is not safe for drinking. Drinking water has a lot of safety factors for treatment to make it extra safe. But our water can be used by the farmers on their alfalfa fields. So
excellent. Hey. Awesome. Ooh, this is getting a little.
So this is a roto screen. So we have the screening at our Headworks, but before the water goes through, or our solids go through this whole biomag building, we screen it one more time. This screen has 3 millimeter diameter holes. One of the main things that it's removing is hair. A lot of hair will make its way through the plant. And just to protect the rest of our equipment, we're going to try to remove that. Yeah.
So funny because I wondered actually, because I've been guilty of putting my extra hair in the toilet. And then so now I'm like, no, I shouldn't do that because it's got to be processed. So this is how, wow.
Yeah, it does.
And then,
so this is a really yummy view if you want that on your
okay, on the Poodcast. Okay. So this is hair and what else?
There can be seeds that make their way through here or just big chunks of solids that might make their way through the Headworks building and through the plant.
I think earlier you said like toenails and fingernails.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ew. And hair.
Yeah. So this is usually one of the most stinky things that we have here. In the summertime, we get a lot of maggots and stuff, and this can get nasty. So if you can handle this, you can come be a wastewater.
You can. Oh, okay. Yeah. And again, you can smell something, but it's not crazy overpowering. Yeah. Hey, we're on top of the chocolate milk here. No.
Yeah. So this is our solids holding tank. So this is where the waste sludge goes before we dewater it. You can see it's still pretty wet at this point. This has a concentration of about 1 to 2% solids. So 99% water at this point. Oh, okay. After it gets dewatered, it comes out 15 to 20% solids, which still doesn't sound very solid, but it actually is. You think about how much water we are and like watermelon. Yeah. So to maintain that 15 to 20 day retention time on our solids, every day we have to waste some of our bacteria solids because there's always new bacteria growing in your plant. Okay. So we test our water. We run a lab test to measure the concentration of those solids. And then we're able to determine how many we need to waste from the system. Okay. Those waste solids go through a dewatering process where we squeeze off as much water from them as we can. Okay. And then
that's the whole goal because it's such a precious, resource, right? So we're trying to keep that as much water as possible.
Well, and it's just expensive because we have to do something with those solids. Okay. And so it just reduces the volume that you have to deal with too by getting rid of as much water. So we take those solids after they've been dewatered and we mix them with green waste. And we put them in rows out here and we compost it. Okay. And by composting it, the heat from that process stabilizes the solids and makes it safe. And we can have anybody from the public come take that compost and put it on their gardens and grow stuff with it. Okay,
great. So do you shuttle in the green waste from different areas in the valley and you bring it here and then you mix it?
Yeah. So our department, we're under the environmental department for Logan City, and that department's also over the landfills. Okay. And so for many, many years, the department has run a green waste composting program. Great. So people already drop off green waste for free. And so we just take that green waste and...
Perfect. So we're recycling that. Okay, so now we are here at the dewatering building, and this is going to probably wrap us up, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is our final stop. So this is where the waste sludge comes to be dewatered. So have the water... We squeeze as much water off of it as we can to reduce the volume of the solids that we have to deal with. So,
okay. Perfect.
So these pumps right here, these are called solids feed pumps. So the waste sludge from the holding tank comes in here and it gets pumped upstairs to our presses that squeeze the water off of the solids. In the corner, there's kind of a vertical motor over there. We have a grinder pump that kind of just homogenizes the sludge, and that just makes it a little more efficient for the dewatering process.
Okay, excellent.
Here, in these totes, we have polymer. Polymer is a flocculant. What we do is we blend this with the solids, and that process is called thickening. So when you add polymer, it makes all the solids flock together, stick together, and then you have clear water left behind. So it thickens the solids, or it makes the solids flock together, stick together, so that
it's kind of like a glue to help it all come together. So then you can compress it. So then you're making it smaller, and that way you can save more water.
Yeah. So if you added it to like our holding tank, if you had a little beaker full of those solids, it would be all brown and mixed together. If you add the polymer and shake it up, you'd have all the solids clumped together and then clear water.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's like a separator.
Okay, so this is our dewatering equipment. These are called rotary fan presses.
Okay.
So this is how we squeeze the water off of the solids.
Okay.
So the polymer and the solids from downstairs get pumped up here.
Okay.
They go into that blue cylinder on the end. That's called a flocculator. And it just blends the polymer and the sludge together to thicken it.
Okay.
And then that thickened sludge gets pumped around the top and split between these circular basins. And it's going to rotate around. You can see this shaft is slowly rotating to help
slowly moving. Okay.
push it around.
Uh-huh.
On the discharge end, inside here, there's a blade. And that blade pushes up against the solids and compacts it together inside the machine. So that squeezes the water off. The water drains down the sides into this pipe down here. That water is going to get sent back to the bioreactors.
Okay.
The solids that have been compacted are slowly going to form this little ribbon or brownie. I like to call them brownies. And it's going to
we got a little poop brownie for the Poodcast. Okay.
And the
Poop
blade,
brownie.
the pressure is adjusted by that air bellows on the end, so we can adjust it.
Okay.
But anyway, the brownie ribbon's going to overflow.
Okay.
Here.
Oh, it does look like brownies.
So just,
You weren't joking. There's the brownies coming down. The sludge that's been separated from the water.
yeah.
Okay.
So, those brownies, and I just want to say again, this is not poop anymore. This is wasted bacteria. So even though it looks brown and gross, it's the official term for it is biosolids, because this is the bacteria that's eaten everything out of the water.
So it's actually the great bacteria that we love because of what it does.
Now, that doesn't mean that it's still safe. Like you wouldn't want to, this can still be harmful. And so that's where our composting comes in to treat that. So these solids fall through the floor into our trucks.
Okay.
We have trucks downstairs.
Trucks. Okay. So it goes from here into the trucks, and then that's where you mix it with the green waste, right? Okay.
The solids out to our compost pad. It gets blended with the green waste out there, put into piles that we call windrows, and it gets composted.
Awesome. Okay. Okay.
It's actually my favorite view of the whole plant is the solids from above. So, yep, it falls through the ceiling and into our trucks. So
Coming from above.
yes, and each of these trucks can hold about 30,000 pounds of our solids. And right now we're producing about 60 tons of solids every single day.
Wow. 60 tons. And these hold how many again?
About 30,000 pounds. Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think that's the conclusion, right?
Yep. That was kind of the finale. It doesn't
Right?
get much better than solids from above. So
The solids from above. Yeah. So fascinating. You're so knowledgeable. And thank you so much for just, taking time out today to share this amazing plant and with us. And yeah, it's, I think probably it's one of the newer ones in the country, right?
yeah, it is. I mean, we're brand new. So
Brand new. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for coming.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So yes, tune in, ZuLoo fans, and make sure to like, share, and click that little yellow bell there to subscribe so you can get notifications of our other great episodes coming up. And until next time, safe pooping.
Thank you for listening to the ZuLoo Pōōdcast. Follow us on social media at our links in the show notes below. To learn more, visit our website, ZuLoo.org. If you liked the podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. For even more ZuLoo fun, send us an email with your toilet stories to podcast@zuloo.com for a chance to be featured on the podcast. This episode of the ZuLoo Pōōdcast is sponsored by ZuLoo Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water, and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at zuloo.com.